to Rethinking This in Richmond, Michigan.
Oh, I love the titles.
I know, they're great. I love the alliteration. So
Yeah.
Rethinking This writes in, how can I be forced to sell my home if I choose not to attend the closing? I changed my mind and have decided that I can get a better price from another prospective buyer. I am now getting threatened by the current buyer. I am rethinking this in Richmond, Michigan. So basically he's saying, how can
What's he rethinking? Which part's he rethinking?
Right. How can I be forced to sell my home if I choose? I'm just not going to show up to the closing. How can they force me to sell if I don't even go?
Well, it's very easy. It's called specific performance. That's the remedy that this buyer has if this seller doesn't close. So rethinking, let me just share with you that you entered into a purchase agreement. And kind of related to our question, the first question tonight, if all the conditions of that purchase offer or purchase agreement have been satisfied and everybody's ready to go and you don't show up at the closing, you breach the contract, okay? And so when you breach a contract in real estate related to the sale of a property, there is a legal remedy that is unique to real estate. And that's because real estate unto itself is unique. Each piece of real estate has its own characteristics and qualities, and courts recognize that. So instead of having a money damage type of scenario where we say, boy, I was damaged by X amount, the courts of law and the legal cases basically recognize that, guess what? This piece of property is unique, and therefore the only way that we can compensate the buyer is to force you, the seller, to sell the home to the buyer. And that's called specific performance. And if you don't think that a court can order the sale of the property, you have another thing coming. So they can. And we do bring actions for specific performance more frequently than we have before, because there's lately where it's been common is land contract sellers. You've heard me say this before, yes, Blair, that there were land contract sellers during like the past 10 years that when real estate wasn't moving very fast, they would sell to people on land contract, which is like a land sale installment agreement, basically. And they would sell them for less than what was probably less than market value at the time, or they sold them at market value and they gave very good terms to these land contract purchasers. Well, the market's great right now and they're trying everything they can to, disrupt the purchase agreement that they have with that land contract buyer, right? Because they can sell it for more. That's what they believe. So we have been very busy. I've just won an appeal on a land contract buyer who was deprived her rights to purchase a property because the seller was trying to do exactly what this individual was trying to do, right? Was turn around and sell it for more. So yeah, I dare you. How about that? And one of those, I dare you. You will be, if you have a buyer who wants that property. Now, you could still go back, rethinking this. You could still go back to the buyer and go, look, I really don't want to sell to you. I'm willing to give you some money to walk away. You don't know what the buyer's going to do, but it sounds like that buyer wants the home because he's already threatened a lawsuit, right? But there's other ways that you could work a deal out. You could say, hey, I have another piece of property you might be interested. You just got to negotiate it or give them money to leave. Doesn't always have to result in a lawsuit, just so you know.
Right.
I don't mind that it results in a lawsuit if it's legally actionable, meaning it has merit. You can always threaten a lawsuit like the buyer is and see what you get from the seller.
Sure.
That's why I think that's why the seller there is rethinking.
Well, rethinking, you might want to rethink not attending that closing. Or, just sitting, sitting on your hands and not doing anything.
Right, there's a cost-benefit analysis, right? What is the other purchase price?
Right, and that's what I was thinking. Right. What is how much higher is the other
Right,
prospective buyer, not even
right.
guaranteed buyer, prospective buyer. You know, if you, anyway,
Hmm.
rethinking this, you might want to rethink your
Yeah,
rethinking.
I like that name. That was a good one.
Yes, it
Rethinking.
was. Okay.